you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. Stu here. Obviously Matthew is not with us yet. We'll get onto that later. But first things to address, I'm obviously taking the reins here. But not because you think, oh no, Andy's not here. It's because he's so big time, whether he's a Broadway star and we've outed him as such. He's now too big to host. So it had to be said. It had to be said. You heard it over there. And you were listening to it, you couldn't wait, could you? You couldn't wait to be on the streets of New York, treading the boards. You had to listen to it beforehand. So, Broadway star André Gillard, welcome.
Hello, everybody. I listened to it again whilst I was out there with my other half. And she was chuckling along. She found it all very amusing what you pair were talking about. It was a very good episode, though. I did enjoy it, and it was because I don't know much about that world, I found it very informative. I thought you did a great job, the pair of you, with that. So thank you very much for taking my question and running with it.
Jazz casting, it's the future.
It's fine when you do it, but I feel if I was to do it, it would just go completely off the rails. I don't feel confident enough. I need the structure, I think.
When I do it, like so I've got no plans, just kind of things just flow as they are. But today, boys and girls, we have got a plan. And now I will sit back as normal.
Yeah, we do have a plan. We've actually got a film to review that isn't going to be out for a couple of weeks yet. It's kind of incredible. I don't quite know how it's happened, but we were asked if we wanted to review Bleeding Love, starring Ewan McGregor and his daughter Clara McGregor. It's not out in the UK until the 12th of April. So yeah, we had a watch of this film and we are here to review it, and hopefully we'll have some more in the future, fingers crossed. So Stu, I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of this film, and Ewan McGregor was on another podcast that I listened to talking about a complete different movie project that he's got going on at the moment. So this one really feels like it's snuck up out of nowhere. Bit of an odd one really, I think, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I had no idea either. And when this came into the inbox, the fact that we'd been given the chance to watch a screener of a film, thinking, oh, well, it's not going to be anything spectacular. It's just going to be something pretty indie, which it turns out it is anyway, but that's not a bad thing. And then he said, oh, yeah, it's starring Ewan McGregor. I was instantly ears up, like a rabbit, especially this time of year, excited about it. And I thought, okay, let's have a look what this is about. Had a quick IMDb of it. That was all I needed to know. I thought, yeah, this sounds intriguing. Not something I'd normally go and watch at a choice, unless you've got a card, which we both had. But even saying that, I don't know if I'd have dedicated 2 hours to go and watch this. I would have been wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I like a road trip movie. I really do. It's one of the genres that I think is a little bit underplayed. It doesn't get a lot of screen time. So I think I'd agree with you that I probably, if I'd come across this on maybe Netflix, I'd have jumped at the chance. But if I saw it in the cinema, it might not necessarily have got the eyes on it that it probably deserves. But there is something about Ewan McGregor that I think pulls people into the cinema. Like, he's one of the few box office stars still. Like, there aren't many of them out there. I don't think there aren't many people who can sell a film, but there is something about McGregor which does make you want to go and see a movie, at least to me anyway.
Yeah. And I'll just actually read the thing out, what we were sent, because I did not know that she was his daughter before the film. I only found that out later when I was looking into it properly. All the information we had was an online review embargo, blah, 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 blah. We had the private screening link and the password to view it. That is all we got sent. Didn't say that this was a father-daughter thing at all. So going in as blind as possible, I thought, these two are bouncing off each other amazing. This is a superb performance. And then you find it later, they are actually father and daughter, so it makes perfect sense. But at the same time, the performances from both of them, I think, because of what the subject matter was pretty superb for both of them. For me, I'd never seen anything with her before. I'd never heard of her before. She doesn't look like him, does she?
They've got the same nose, but that's about it, really, I think.
Yeah. She's very unique looking, not in a bad way. She's just very unique looking. But that
kind of reminds me of another famous Nepo baby, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter, Maya Hawke. She reminded me very much of her in her mannerisms and also in her features. I don't mean that to sort of, diminish Clara McGregor, because I thought she was really good in this. But she did remind me of another actor I really like at the moment as well.
Yeah, she was... Because the accent threw me as well. Because obviously he uses his normal voice in this as well. Not that it's not even mentioned why he's there. And I did the little nod on the truck saying Highland. I thought, yeah, well, there's your Scottish reference. That's all we need to know. I know that he's lived in America for God knows how long, and that she's got a full-on American accent, which I'm presuming is her own. But it didn't even matter.
Seems so.
Yeah, it didn't matter. That made no sense at all. It was just, oh, okay, well, this is how it is.
So, like the film itself, then. So the basic story is that Ewan McGregor is driving his daughter to rehab. She OD'd and he's trying to get her clean. They're a bit of an estranged family, and he's now back in her life trying to get her back on the straight and narrow effectively. It's not reinventing the wheel, is it, this story? I think it is something we have seen before. There's nothing new here to see, if I'm being perfectly honest with it. But you've touched on it already. Their chemistry, I thought, was fantastic. That's what really held this film together for me, was the fact that I felt both of them put on a really good performance each, because it felt like, I don't know what their relationship is in the real world, but you got an actual sense that there was a bond between them, and it came across on screen perfectly. So I really liked it for that aspect of it personally. What about yourself, Stu? What did you think?
Yeah, it was... Saying the bond, it was more the friction between them as well. The fact that they clearly had issues with each other, and more she having issues with him, which you find out later why that was the case. And she's the usual teen gone bad and starts lighting up a fag and just the usual back chat and stuff that you expect. Like you said, it's not really reinventing the wheel, but then you come back to the whole thing of, oh yeah, there's only about 7 stories you can ever tell anyway. Doesn't matter. The way it was done was really good. I hadn't seen it done like that before. And obviously you watch a lot more of these kind of things than I have. And it's like we said earlier, this is not my kind of film normally. But yeah, the interactions between them, especially when you meet the other characters along the way as well, I think that was when it plays up more, because you can see how angry he's getting.
I did like the other characters very much, especially the first woman that they meet. She was just utterly batshit insane, and I wasn't sure where the film was going to go. We were 20 minutes in, the car breaks down, and all of a sudden we meet this other woman. It was still very tentative at this point. And I thought, is this going to be a super serious drama? Is that the road we're going down? And then this woman comes in and she's like, oh, just hand me that package. And it's a big sawn-off shotgun. And I thought, oh, yeah, I thought, we're going to get some moments of levity in this film, which I think it definitely needed, because it could have been super serious. And I think that could have ended up being a bit dull, because, as I said, it's not a new story. So those moments of levity, I think, elevated this story throughout. I think that was a real good moment with that. You had the prostitute who they meet, who, don't want to go into spoilers on it, but again, her ambition of working on Broadway might just be because of last week's podcast, but that really tickled me. And there was just a few nice little moments throughout this film that kept it ticking along really nicely, I thought.
Yeah, and fans of this podcast and talking about pissing for the last month or so, there's a lot of pissing in this film, which is I didn't expect to see. Not that you see, don't worry. But yeah, obviously it's hard with this one because obviously we can't say anything at all because of no one's seen it yet. But some of the characters are farcical, and it could have gone down the kind of wacky races kind of tick boxing of all the kind of stereotypes of that kind of middle of nowhere America and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it kind of does at points, but not in a bad way. Like they all of them seem like real people who could have perfectly fine exist and it not be going too far. And
yeah, I completely get you there.
I'm just thinking like the motel and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just amusing. It's not really laugh out loud. It's just amusing in parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been, like you said, it could have been as dull as anything. It could have been one of these things that took itself way too seriously. It's a serious thing. It's a serious subject matter with the kid being, I think she's 19, 20 in this, as he says about her being underage. And she's clearly rebelling and she's got issues and she's with substance abuse and all this kind of thing. So you don't want to be taking the piss with that kind of thing, but they do it really well. It's what turns out into a really, really sweet film that I enjoyed way too much than you'd expect me to enjoy.
Yeah, exactly the same here. I thought, well, obviously they're reaching out to us to review to review a film, or they're all giving us this opportunity. And I thought, well, it's not going to be a big hitter of a film. If I just come away feeling like that was that wasn't a waste of 100 minutes, we'll be okay. But it was so much more than that in the end. I felt like it did feel like you went on a journey with them, and I think that's really well done by the director. Emma Westenberg, I believe, is the director's name. Someone I hadn't heard before, and when I look at her filmography, there's a few TV shows and music videos, so I don't know if this might be like her taking her tentative steps into it. But I do feel like that's possibly a name that I'll look out for in the future now, having seen that, because I thought the direction on this film was really, really well handled without it being too heavy-handed. It felt quite natural in parts, but then the dream sequences, like, she did a really good job of differentiating between the two. And like, hats off to her. I thought she did a fantastic job for someone who I can't confess to knowing a lot about.
Yeah, how things were framed as well, like the sunset, which obviously it's a sunset, but it was perfect for that moment in the point of the film, I thought, as well. If you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll retrofit this question now, because normally we ask if you enjoy this film, you may also like. But obviously no one's seen this film for that. So my question to you, Stu, I'll answer it first to give you a minute's thinking time. What film would you have to like in order to like this film, do you think? I'll give you a minute to think about it, because I've got my answer already. The film that I would go for, I don't know if you've ever heard of The Long Dumb Road. It's Jason Mantzoukas' film. I love Jason Mantzoukas. He's one of my favourites. I will watch him in absolutely anything. And it is a coming-of-age road trip comedy. It stars the young Asian lad from Spider-Man. Is it Tony Revolori, I believe? His name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, it stars him. He plays a very straight-laced college student who just needs to loosen up a little bit. He then meets Jason Mantzoukas' character, and they go on a road trip where Jason Mantzoukas is too fast and loose with his life, and the other kid is the complete opposite. And this film is all about very much them meeting in the middle and both growing, even though one's a 40-something-year-old man and the other one's just starting out at college. And it's just a really nice film about friendship and identity. Really enjoyable, and I think that's quite similar to this. So I think if you're a fan of London Road, you'll really get on with this movie as well. So is there any film that you think that you could think, if you like that, you'll probably like this as well?
It's not really the same, but it's from a kind of, in a different way, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
If you know, I was trying to think like parent bonding kind of films, and it's very different for obvious reasons, but there's parts in that make more sense to me when you think of comparing it to something else, because obviously you got the road dramas and the kind of things like that, the road itself. Right. Well, if you like the road, you probably will enjoy this, to be fair. But that's obviously a lot more grim than this.
Just a bit, yeah. That's a good shout.
Yeah, I'd say that, because it's more about the kind of, it is about the bond between them rather than the actual subject matter or than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, like I say ironically, but it very much is about not about the destination, but the journey to get there, isn't it, this film? And I think that's very similar with Pursuit of Happiness. It's how they get to where they end, I think. And that's what this film does so well, I believe. Because it's a little bit mawkish in parts, and I do think the end probably is a little bit saccharine, but I had a hell of a time on the journey with them, which, we can't say for a lot of films that we've seen, can we?
No. And I think more than anything else, I wanted more of it. And that was a bigger problem than anything else. It could have been another 20 minutes long.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no point in us seeing this film's dragging. Like, it was paced perfectly. And you are right, like an extra 20 minutes, a bit more of their interplay, a bit more of their history, that wouldn't have gone amiss at all. Not that it would take away from this film, without it in there, but it was just more being greedy, I think. I was enjoying myself. So yeah, absolutely.
Like after the motel, I thought that was a bit rushed. Obviously there's a budget restrictions on this, because it's not a very, I'm imagining it's not a very massive budget on this altogether. With marketing alone, there's not going to be much of that, is there? So
yeah,
I think I can see why they ended it like they did, and I wasn't as down on it as, well, not so down on it. It was more like I said, I just wanted more of it, which is already a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this film is going to be out on the 12th of April, so it's a couple of weeks away. Stu, would you recommend people to get to the cinemas and give this one a go?
Well, I already have. Oh yeah. Obviously, I went to that catastrophe on Saturday. We had a good 4 hours in Lichfield beforehand, and obviously we didn't go any spoilers way, so no embargo's broken there. But yeah, this film is for people who I know will like watching dramas, will enjoy this film. It's very like there's a kind of a massive audience of people who watch an ITV drama that I think, what kind of film these people like. They're not going to be going to watch mental stuff, and that we'll come on to later from the first 3 months of the year. But they will sit down and enjoy a good drama. When this comes on telly, I think it's going to be massive. I think it really will be, because it's one of them things. I watched it last week. So what was that, about 5 days ago now? Well, from recording, and I thought about it way more than I thought I would do. So yeah, absolutely, I'll recommend this for people who I know who like drama, who like a good story and a good dynamic between two people. Yeah, absolutely, go and watch it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny you say ITV drama, because this feels like it would be the perfect Monday evening, sat down with a lasagna or whatever, put it on the TV, just sit there and enjoy yourself. I think this would be that perfect kind of a film for that type of a day. Yeah, it definitely fits in with that aesthetic of the ITV drama, that the smash hits that they've been churning out over the last couple of years. It's definitely got that feel to it in the best possible sense, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So, so as I say, this is in the UK cinemas from the 12th of April. So get out and give it a watch. It's got 4 thumbs up. I'd say 6 because as far as I think Matt enjoyed it as well. But as we said, reasons dictate why he can't be here. Right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after that. We'll be joined by our long-term buddy, Ash Dolan, and we'll be doing our first ever quarterly review, where we look back at January to March 2022. Welcome back, and with us we have Ash Dolan for the main body of the podcast. Welcome, Ash. Hope you're keeping well.
Hi, guys. Yeah, not too bad.
You look like you've had a haircut on this. It's been a few weeks since I've seen you, but you look like you've had a haircut, or is it just...
No. It's just well hidden with the headphones.
He's just got more. He's got enough hair for all 3 of us put together.
He's making up for it somewhat today. So this portion of the podcast, I thought we'd do our first ever quarterly review. I know normally do a half-time review, but slightly different, where we look at different genres and what we've enjoyed in that particular genre. But on this one, I thought we'd have a look at the first 3 months individually and what's been good and what's been bad so far. So in that vein, we'll start off with what was the best thing that you saw that was released in January of 2024. Ash, as you're joining us now, and Stu's had a lot to say in the first part, you can start this one off. What's been good?
In January, I'm going to cheat a little bit because technically it was released in 2023, but Godzilla -1 - Color was released at the end of January, and I went to Philadelphia just to watch it. Well, technically not just to watch it. And as far as a black and white adaptation of a film goes, it was one of the best ones I've ever seen. It wasn't just black and white. They filmed it properly. Like it kept all of its character, even more so. Godzilla stomping around, he was even more menacing, and I feel like it's kind of relevant now that he's won the Oscar. But it was superb, even more so in black and white.
And what did the black and whiteness of it add to the film? Because you'd think, really, it would be the other way around. It would detract from the film. But in actuality, it doesn't seem like it did.
I think it added to, like I say, I think it added to it the opening scene on the beach in the dark, and then out of nowhere he just appears, and he's menacing. He's even more menacing than he was in the coloured version, because I think he is probably the more menacing version than any of the American versions that we've seen. But it just added that. It just added that little bit more terror to it, I think, if anything else.
Okay. I suppose there's some sort of authenticity as well, because obviously the original Gojira was, what was it, 40? No, was it 40s or 50s? I can't remember when it was actually out. But I think the original was a black and white as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So I'm guessing there's some kind of authenticity that it adds to it, because technically this is a sequel to the very first original incarnation, isn't it? Rather than, a continuation of a different story.
Yeah, I think so. But it's just been nice that somebody's taken the time and given him a proper story rather than just big monster go burr and just blowing loads of shit up. Whereas this, I know you spoke about it before, but the story and the actual heart of that movie was something that I've not seen, and I couldn't believe that I had tears during a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, it was truly outstanding. And well worth its Oscar. Have you seen it yet, Stu?
No. I mean, I completely missed it when it was out. I just never got around to watching it, and then thinking foolishly enough that give it 30 days or so, it'll be on certain platforms, and it just hasn't turned up yet. But yeah, as soon as it does, I'll watch it straight away, because the amount of that you talked about it anyway, and now Ash has dropped this bomb into the thing. I'm guessing that the black and white version won't be out like that, and it may be kept special. I don't know, like Fury Road was. Which again, was perfect in black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it in black and white. I'm hoping they do like a not a Blu-ray, a 4K release of it where they've got both on there. Hopefully that would be quite a decent one to get hold of, I think. So that fingers crossed, because I'm still pissed off that they never released it in this country. Because I do think there's an audience for it, but for whatever reason, they just didn't do it, which was kind of a pathetic move on their part. So what did you think was the best film that was released in January, Stu?
Not so much a film, it was the best series of the year so far, and up there with the best thing of the year so far in Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which is one of the most incredible pieces of drama ever. And not just this year, not just taking the piss, it's incredible. I don't know still if it's available anywhere else other than here, so VPN your asses all over this if you're in it. Unfortunately enough not to live in England. But yeah, a story that I don't think anyone knew of or had paid any real attention to before this, and now obviously the success of it has led to a bit of justice finally coming to the people who did wrong to those poor postmasters. But as a story like that you think dull, don't want to hear, don't care. For ITV of all people to make something out of it, we're 3 months out now, nearly 4 months out, and I can't stop thinking about it. It comes up all the time, and obviously when you're on ITVX, it's always on there on the splash screen, and sure it should be, because it deserves to be shown more, and it deserves more eyes on it, but it won't be because it's an ITV drama.
Yeah, I think you're right there, to be honest. It's it being an ITV drama, it lends its own credence over the last few years of having some really good TV off there. But when you couple that with it's a show about postmen, you think, oh, is that going to be interesting? And you watch it, and like, I'm still angry about it all these months later. It really was a very, impactful piece of TV. Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are people out there who followed this story from day one, but I definitely wasn't one of those people. I'd never heard of it until, I think it was a week after the show had been out and you mentioned it to me. I'd never even heard of it, and then, yeah, absolutely tremendous piece of TV. I mean, Toby Jones doesn't do bad stuff, let's be honest, and he was tremendous in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So myself, looking in January, the best thing that I thought was released in January was Poor Things. Obviously, it's the film which Emma Stone won her Oscar for. It was a magnificent piece of cinema. Just the visual aspects of it, the set design, the costume design, everything on the technical side of it was spot on. It was as damn near to perfect as you'll see in any film. It looked like a cartoon brought to life. I thought they did a phenomenal job of creating this world within this story. And then you add in the actual story of, I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but the character is basically, she's a baby who was taken out of her mother's womb and then was, put into a young adult's body. So you see the life start and then how she ages throughout this whilst being an older person throughout. It's kind of weird, but it's really interesting how it was done. And Emma Stone was just fantastic in this movie. And of course, Willem Dafoe, who, big fan of Willem Dafoe in anything. Him as the Dr. Frankenstein of it all was kind of perfect, because he does have that very unusual look anyway, but then you add in all the makeup and everything to make him a little bit more deformed and what have you. And he couldn't have been cast any better than he was in that movie. He was absolutely brilliant. I really loved Poor Things. I think it sort of came and went, and a lot of people was like, oh, I want to see that. And I don't know that many people actually did, other than those of us idiots who try and watch all of the Oscar films before the big night. And I feel like it definitely did deserve a bit more attention than it really got outside of the world of film critics. Because I don't know anyone who's actually seen that film, weirdly.
I have now.
You have now?
Because I knew you'd talk about it again, so I thought, well, I can't judge him and have a go at him if I don't know what I'm talking about. And I knew that you'd put it number one. That's why I mentioned Mr. Bates. It is very, very good. I will give it that. It's very, very good. It's not. I thought it was the most GLR thing ever. And it is. It is. And normal people are not going to enjoy this film. It was borderline for me at points where I thought, oh, come on now, you're going a bit too far. But I think it does know what it is as well. And you can't argue with her performance. It's superb. I just didn't enjoy it as much as you did. But again, that's not a bad thing. It's probably the most. It's not for everyone on this entire list of things that I've got written down here, because it's not. It's so niche and weird that you can't. If we did the usual thing, like, can you recommend this to people? I'd say no, because you've got to know the person to recommend this to them.
Yeah, I get you. But I do think it's watching for Emma Stone and for Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo gives a proper balls-to-the-wall mental performance. I didn't realise that Mark Ruffalo had that in him, if I'm perfectly honest. He's always been fine, a steady hand. But in this, he was actually fun and more than watchable. He was enjoyable.
Yet again, I will say, go and watch Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo. Again, about a subject that's the most dull thing in the world, about a water company. From when was that made? 2019. Anne Hathaway as well. Is that your bow?
Yeah.
Go and watch Dark Waters. He's good in that.
Lovely. So on the flip side of that coin, what was the worst thing that you saw that was released in January, Ash?
I struggled with this one. Let's have a look. What did I have on my list? I wrote down more what I liked than what I didn't. Let's have a look. Technically, I watched The Boy and the Heron. It was okay. Like you said, it was a bit overrated, and I do think Spider-Man should have won the Oscar instead of that. But it was Madam Web. Although, can I say that was bad?
No, that's to come. That's good.
No, that was February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot for January, I don't think. I'll probably go with The Boy and the Heron, which is a bit unfair, but compared to everything else, I think that probably would be it.
I didn't love The Boy and the Heron either. And I feel like I probably, of all of the films that was released, that's the one I feel like I probably should have enjoyed more, but it just didn't work for me on any level. I was quite bored through most of it. Yeah. Stu, what about you?
I have not seen Boy and the Heron, and I will never see Boy and the Heron. But again, it's shit, but it's enjoyable in a weird way. Night Swim.
Oh, you actually saw that, did you?
You won. Yeah, I was the one. Again, you'd never pay to watch this, would you? And as one who did go and see this and spend £4 buy nibbles, that was a waste of time. It looked intriguing from the trailer. I saw a bit of it, and I thought, well, the fact that I watched the trailer for it, which is should be a red herring in itself.
Yeah.
But something about a bad force, a bad supernatural force in a pool. Oh well, this could be like Megan in water. It was not Megan in water.
It's interesting because I feel like it is a Blumhouse film, isn't it? If I remember rightly,
it's
they've dropped off a little bit for me. Blumhouse. I didn't like Megan that much last year. Obviously, you know my opinions of Five Nights at Freddy. Yeah, I feel like Blumhouse are putting out more misses than hits over the last 12 months, personally. And like some of the reviews I read of that one you just mentioned, that I've Night Swim, I'd already forgotten the fucking title. Some of the reviews were literally, it's about a haunted swimming pool.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's the review goes, this is not going to be an interesting film. So I never gave it a go. I didn't. Did you see it, Ash?
No, it was on the list, and then it just fell by the wayside because it didn't last in the cinema that long. And then it's obviously one of those weeks where you went and watched something else, and then it was gone. So, but it doesn't look like I missed anything.
No. If this is going to be on either of your two lists, don't talk about it. But have either of you seen Imaginary yet?
Yeah,
The 90s Blumhouse.
yeah.
You haven't, Stu, but you have, Ash. Is that on one of your lists? Well, whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that when we get to it then. Lovely.
Yeah.
Super. Okay. So, February then. Stu, best thing in Feb?
I'm actually really struggling with this because there's quite a few. When this is the most dense of the things that were released in February in the UK. If this is what we're going for here, these are the rules. Now I have seen these films. Now I hadn't at the time, but I have now. But Madam Web, man, no, obviously not Madam Web. I mean, looking down the list. I mean, we've talked about The Beekeeper at the time, and all these are silly nonsense films. But Iron Claw, fair play, absolutely fair play. I had no interest in this, but then you lot bullied me into watching it. Going in without any knowledge whatsoever, I obviously went straight to fact check all the madness and the fact that it wasn't even all of it. Stunning, absolutely stunning. And there is other things that were released at that time, but you were right. I haven't seen Wicked Little Letters because I know that's going to feature probably. That was one I just didn't have time for. Same with what you just talked about. What else were you just talking about? Poor Things. It was one of them too, and I watched Poor Things. So that missed out just about, and unfortunately, so I will get round to that. But yeah, the Iron Claw was magnificent. Everyone in it just spot on.
So, as someone who doesn't really follow wrestling, were you still interested enough in that world? Because, like, to me and Ash, we know that story fairly well already. So, as someone as an outsider, somewhat, how did you feel about going into it then? Because it sounds like you weren't particularly interested in it until you heard others talk about it. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, well, when you said it was a wrestling film, obviously The Wrestler is another one of them where it's a great film in its own right anyway. It just happens to be about that subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, I mean, the reception that this got was similar kind of thing. And obviously I will watch wrestling. I'll stay up. I'll watch WrestleMania, like Filthy Casual and all this stuff. I had my 18 months where I was back on the house shows and all that stuff and everything. But this year, the whole Rock thing, it's got me intrigued. So I dipping the toe back in. And when he goes on Netflix, I know what's going to happen. It's just easy to watch then. But yeah, I was trying to, I was talking about it over the on Saturday to people, and as soon as you say, oh, it's about wrestling, people turn off. They've got no interest in it. And I didn't even say it was about wrestling to start with to a couple of people. I just told them the stories and about the family and Curse, whatever. And they went, oh, well, what sport is it? And I went, wrestling. And, oh, I'm watching that then. And, well, you're missing out because I'll watch any old bollocks. I don't care what it's about.
Yeah.
As long as it's a good story, it's a good story. But a lot of people won't. It's probably why it didn't win what it should have won.
I do think there is that element. I think if you'd have said it was about an American football family or a boxing family, yeah, I do think wrestling turns a lot of people off because outside of a select few areas in the world, it is still the most niche of niche interests, isn't it? It's kind of crazy.
That little speech in the diner where he's explaining the title belts about being a promotion at work, I thought that's the most spot on thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Brilliant. Ash, what was the best thing you saw?
I can't really say anything, can I? Because it's obviously Iron Claw. It was always ever going to. It was never not going to be Iron Claw. I've literally tried to rack my brain to see if I can go for anything else and lie through my teeth and say, yeah, I preferred that to Iron Claw, but it's not, is it? It's you're talking to you're talking to two wrestling fans. I've not cried that much in the cinema for a long time. But fucking Zac Efron, fair play to the kid. Like, he ain't that kid from High School Musical anymore, is he? He's like, fair play. You've got some acting chops on you, kid. We went into the cinema and we had two girls sat there wearing the High School Musical jersey. I walked past him and said, Troy Bolton ain't having a good day today, kids. You ain't gonna have fun with this.
Yeah. It's 3 for 3. It is for me as well. What are you saying, Stu?
I'd managed to kind of keep it together, but then the "We'll Be Your Brothers" got me.
Yeah. I watched it. Oh, current.
It was that bit. It was that bit, and that was the wobbly lip. But the bit when Kerry, what's his name? His actor's name. Yeah.
Jeremy Allen White.
Yes, that's it. When he comes across on the boat, and then he sees the brothers on the pier, and then the youngest brother appeared. Ah, Jesus Christ! I was gone. Don't know what got over me, but that baby, I was ugly crying.
It was the bit with Mikey when they had the press conference at the hospital. It just ruined me. That did. Just like that first time when he tried to talk and you realised, oh, he's not there anymore. Nah.
It just reminded me of the bit at the end of Hannibal, where he's feeding him his own brain and he's going coffee.
Yeah,
it's like that. Which was the first thought in my head, which is kind of bad.
Yeah, it's such an upsetting film, but it was so well acted, and like it is kind of disgusting that it didn't get any Oscar nominations at all for any of it, because on several levels you think this is as good as anything else in terms of acting and in terms of set design and anything like that. I just don't understand how they managed to get away with, get completely ignored. It's an absolute disgrace. But yeah, like I say, it's 3 for 3. Zone of Interest was really good as well. Not an easy film to watch, obviously, about the Holocaust, but I do think it's something everyone should probably watch. And I did speak about American Fiction at the time, which I really, really enjoyed. The Beekeeper was released that month, Stu, you mentioned. That's a lot of fun. Like, it is a bit shit, but in the best possible way. And Wicked Little Letters as well. I have got a film for the worst, but Wicked Little Letters isn't the worst. It was perfectly fine. It was a fun couple of hours spent in the cinema. Definitely the kind of thing I think you need to see with an audience, because I feel like the laughter certainly helps elevate the film somewhat. But I like Jessie Buckley, and I like the Queen, obviously, because she's brilliant in everything. So Wicked Little Letters was great, and I do think you'll enjoy that when you eventually get married to see next year. So, flip side of the coin time, what was the worst thing in February, Stu?
American Fiction, obviously. Wank. Pretentious shite.
No.
Nah. I just again, I wanted to see his reaction. I didn't actually. I didn't like it. I tried my best. Just didn't click for me at all. Just one of those situations. It's this year's Banshees of Inisherin for me. Didn't get it. Never gonna get it. Nothing about the subject. Nothing about it being about black people before you start. It was just one of them films. I watched it, just couldn't get it. But it is what it is. But the worst thing in the whole of the month. I mean, bear in mind we're talking about. I have watched Madam Web and Married to the Game. But can I tell you a secret on Netflix? What the fuck was that? What? I don't understand. I do not understand, and I've kept quiet about this, only with Kevin Keegan. But no one's going to Monday or winning this. But why did they? The story itself, fine, stalker, meh. Just one of these. But why put a comedy camp voiceover on for? Why? It ruined the whole thing, and I couldn't take it seriously. And I know you talked about it in the group chat, and I kept quiet about it. And I thought, no, there's going to be a time when I'm going to need this one in the back pocket or something. I couldn't believe what they'd done, because it just makes the whole thing into a farce.
Yeah, like there's no denying it. I think I said at the time there was the Alan Partridge sketch where they put on, they faked someone's voice, and it was the voice of Frank Bruno for this petite white woman, and that's what it was. And I'm like, yeah, it made it very difficult to take seriously, didn't it? And the thing is now, like a month or so since I've seen it, couldn't tell you a fucking thing about that show. There's no imprint whatsoever, other than that stupid voiceover. Ash, what about yourself?
I can't say Madam Web. No, I don't think, because I had too much fun with it. And as I think I'm going to have to go with Argyle, because like with Stu's one, I can't really tell you what happened in it. It's been a month or so since I've watched it, and for the cast that's in it, and I love Matthew Vaughn films, I didn't grip me. And it was 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It was too long. It dragged, and it just didn't have anything going for it. And it's just really disappointing, because at this point you expect so much more from Matthew Vaughn, and you expect things from Henry Cavill and Bryan Cranston and John Cena and Sam Rockwell, Bryce Dallas Howard. That cast was ridiculous, and it just didn't go anywhere, and it just bored me. And for all the thing of this cat, and the cat never got involved, and I wanted to see some sort of spy cat, and it never came to fruition, and it pissed me off.
Yeah, Argyle's also my answer. Like, at the time, I thought I kind of enjoyed it in a Madam Web. It's kind of shit but fun. But looking back, I'm like, no, I think it was just a little bit shit, actually, because it didn't have the charm of the first Kingsmen film. And obviously at the end of this film, they try and tie it back into all of that world, and it was kind of unsuccessful. It didn't really, I don't know, it didn't make any sense, and it didn't land, them trying to make it a Kingsmen thing. And I presume at some point we're going to get the Kingsmen universe, which, like, so far, the first one was good, the second was terrible, the third was fine, and this one was not good. I don't think they need to be running with that, if I'm perfectly honest. And yeah, I do like most of Matthew Vaughn's work. I say switch your brain off and watch. But there was parts in this where you're like, oh, that's just too far. The ice skating on the crude oil scene.
Yeah.
Like, I saw someone had tweeted that clip out of that fight, and I was like, oh God, that's even worse than I actually remember it. That's terrible. Yeah, in retrospect with me, that's definitely the worst thing I've seen them. Definitely worse than Madam Web, which was shit, but I laughed several times at it. But yeah, that's more than I did with Argyle, so that's why Madam Web just eats over the line for me. Moving on to March then. So the best thing released in March. Ash?
It's definitely not the best, but I had the most fun, and it came on Friday. It's Godzilla of Kong, The New Empire. It's, like you say, leave your brain at the door and watch a big lizard and a big monkey go hell for leather. I had a hell of a lot of fun. Maybe it is because I love the big kaiju motherfuckers, but watching Godzilla suplex King Kong was super. And then you've probably seen it online, but King Kong rocks Godzilla with an uppercut and knocks him out. It's superb shit. Like, leave your brain at the door and watch two CGI monsters going silly bollocks. I had a hell of a lot of fun. And it felt more like they've learned from the last couple, and they've sort of left the human stories to the side. Dan Stevens prances around a little bit, makes a few quips, but there's no real human story to it. They just leave it to the big fuck off monsters doing silly bollocks. had a lot of fun.
I mean, it sounds like Transformers with beasts, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I'm guessing Stu,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be right up your alley, isn't it?
I love that, the MonsterVerse stuff. I've got. They are next to literally. They are next to Transformers over there on the shelf, and on the Blu-rays. Because why wouldn't they be?
Have you watched Monarch?
Not yet, and that is the only reason why I haven't gone and seen this yet. So
That's quite good, to be fair. I did enjoy Monarch.
yeah, I'm going to watch. That was my plan. I'm going to watch that next week, and then go and watch this masterpiece the week after.
Incredible. Something.
I do want to see it, but I think I've seen Kong and the animated series that followed it. So I'm 4 films and 3 TV shows behind. So I don't know whether to just jump ahead and watch it or what. Do I need any knowledge of the previous world for it, or can I just dive in?
No, you don't need a brain to watch it.
Brilliant. Stu, what was the best thing in March then? Or was it Ricky to Nicky before you say it?
I presume that we're going to mention that later.
Okay.
Again, talking about most fun, yes, he would be. But we'll come to that later. There's on it. To caveat this, I haven't seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire yet, so this
Should have said.
but that it still wouldn't beat the masterpiece that is Dolan 2. Perfect film, 10 out of 10, wonderful. There's nothing more we can say that we didn't say when Matt was here, when we talked about it over and over and over again. It's pure art. And the fact that Andre doesn't like it is a shambles of it.
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's just not. It's like a 7 out of 10. It's fine.
It's spawned more memes and gifs than anything ever.
Oh, the Lisan Al-Gaib memes, they're the best thing ever. That's a 10 out of 10. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
There's something out of nowhere that, from an incredibly serious film, that takes itself as seriously as you'd expect for a book like that. For a certain saying to become part of pop culture and normal culture thing there, because people know what it is. It's quite incredible, really. But yeah, we don't need to talk about it anymore. June Part 2.
It has been discussed to death, hasn't it? Ash, what were your thoughts? I think you're probably similar to me, if I remember correctly, when we spoke about it.
It was fine. It was a movie that happened. I sat there and things happened and big sandworms happened, and it was fine. Like the fighting scenes were fine and stuff like that. And what's his face was the biggest dick rider I've ever seen in cinema ever, with the Lisan Al-Gaib stuff. But Jesus, but yeah, it was fine. Like, I didn't find it outstanding, but I can see why people did. But it just, yeah. I suppose having seen Chalamet as Wonka, I was just expecting him to have a mental breakdown and go and start making chocolate at some point. But yeah, it was all right.
I'll come to Wonka in a second. Where did you sit on the first June film?
Can't remember a lot about that one, to be honest. It was okay. Again, it was okay. I just don't think those films really are for me. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. It felt quite Star Warsy in that sense.
Yeah, massive. I mean, as far as I can tell, what's his name? Fucking Lucas just ripped off a lot of Herbert Frank or whatever the fuck his name is. He ripped off a lot of his work. So I think that's why Star Wars and June look very, storyline-wise are very similar. What's his name, Stu? Frank Helbert. What is he? The guy who wrote it? I can't even remember.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
It's Frank Herbert.
Herbert, that's it.
Yeah, the main one, and then his son read the later ones.
Okay. Yeah, there you are. But yeah, so Wonka of it all, obviously, I think that's probably that's the best I've seen of Timothée Chalamet. I don't really buy him as a lead actor, but in that role, I thought he was really good. But I do kind of struggle with him a little bit in June because he doesn't have the presence for me to pull up the role. So, yeah, I think you're right, Ash. Seeing him in Wonka and then this, I don't know. I'd rather see more Chalamet, light, airy silliness than trying to be Space Hitler.
I think it doesn't help that he's sharing the screen with Javier Bardem and Josh Brolin. Like, you're going to have some good chops to put up with them two, and then I just don't think he's got that yet. Like I say, put a silly hat on him and put him with CGI Hugh Grant, and he's all right, but them two are proper actors, aren't they?
Yeah.
No, talking about Hitler, you see the
What a fucking start to a sentence there.
the new Germany shirt for the year
44.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's Adidas, isn't it? Is the company who made it?
Yeah.
Adidas are a German company. You would have thought they would have clocked that quite quickly, but obviously fucking not.
I mean, obviously the 44 is never going to be worn, in any kind of game, is it? Because of obviously 24-man squads or whatever, 25-6, whatever it is this time around. But when a fan goes on it and just puts 44, and then you see it looking like the SS, you think, how did this not click in anyone's mind that, that 4 looks a bit like an S? What would happen? If someone bought it for someone's 44th birthday,
yeah, that does happen.
Yeah.
It's not well thought out at all, is it, that one? Incredible. So my best thing in March is Late Night with the Devil. There was 2 jump scares in that film and I nearly shat my pants. One of them I was expected and still fucking terrified me. And the other one just came completely out of left field. It was brilliant. It's the best thing Shudder have ever done. I like Shudder, and their films can range from hokey as fuck to being genuinely quite terrifying like Host. But Late Night with the Devil, I think even surpassed Host, which was a film I was a massive fan of when that was released in 2020. David Dastmalchian as the late night host who was, conducting the whole show basically. He was smarmy whilst also being kind of sweet. He walks the line between the two really well. I would actually genuinely quite like to watch his show at Night Owls. I think it'd be quite an interesting, fun show to watch with him presenting it. But this is pretty much a found footage style show. So it's an episode of his show that went out on Halloween, and for some reason the footage was lost to history, and they found it and they've put it on the cinema screen. This is the basic outline of the movie, and all kinds of shit happens to it. I don't want to go into too much detail because it would spoil a lot of it, but he gets on a guest. He's got one guest who is a medium who obviously does the cold readings. He's got one person who's a skeptic, and then he brings on a doctor and her patient is possessed by a devil, so they think. And shit goes sideways quite quickly. And you think, okay, this will start off quite nice and easy, and then something happens that's just fucking gross, and you're immediately hooked. And it was brilliant. I absolutely love this film. It's one of the best horror films I've seen in a long time. There was nothing last year that even came close to it, but I thought that was fantastic. So I watched that, and then I watched Immaculate, the Sydney Sweeney horror. And that was a lot better than I think I gave it credit for. At the time, I was oh, I've seen all this before. And then the last sort of 15 minutes of the film were fantastic. Really strong ending to this movie. And it's one that I think has stayed with me a lot more than I expected, because I keep going back and replaying bits in my mind. I think I need to watch that again, because I think it's a lot better than I initially gave it credit for. It's well worth a watch, that one is.
Can we, how much on the Sweeney titometer is there exposed this time?
There is a wet t-shirt, not a wet t-shirt, but she's wearing the undergarment because she's a nun, and she's in a bath because she's preggo. Obviously Immaculate, it's the Immaculate Conception is the story, and yeah, so there's There's a bit, but not a lot, because she's wearing I was going to say cassock, but that's what the Russians wear. What is it the nuns wear? I can't remember. But yeah, she's basically covered, so you don't see a lot of the titty. But it's worth a watch, though. It is a decent film. Moving on to the worst of March, then. Ash, what stunk?
We've already mentioned it. Imaginary. It absolutely fucking ponged. Just for that sort of thing. You're not expecting a thriller horror masterpiece, but you're expecting silly bollocks fun, and it just wasn't fun. Like, it's just stupidest. Like, oh, I've got a teddy bear, and it's what was it? The fucking it's the spirit of a imaginary friend, and you've left him alone, and he's got upset. It's just, oh my god, it's absolute crap. If I had paid for it, I'd have been fuming to watch to come out of that screen. Dreadful. Just there was no redeeming feature to it. I didn't even laugh at it wasn't that bad. It was fun, which obviously like Madam Web, it was just bad. It just stunk.
To say how bad it is, when you go on IMDb, the more like this is Night Swim.
Oh dear me. Yeah, I've seen it on one of the means we have to watch films, and even I can't bring myself to watch it after some of the reviews I've seen. It does sound like an absolute stinker. Have you seen it yet, Stu?
Yeah, but you might as well just watch Chucky or something better. Or I mean, it's one of these things where you think, what is the point? Just why is it, other than attacks right off of some kind, why has this been made? Because it's not good. It's annoying more than anything else.
Yeah. I don't think I'll be wasting my time on them. But
no.
What was the worst thing you saw in March then, Stu? Or is it imaginary?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, again, to get a reaction, because I went in thinking I'm gonna hate this film, Drive Away Dolls, but I can't. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
And again, not really something that you'd think. I know we talked about a road trip film earlier on. A very different kind of end of the spectrum of a road trip film, this one.
Very much so.
But again, it's part of this rebirth of R-rated, high ratings level of stupid film, which is coming back. And we've missed them for so long. There's been so few of them. And obviously, one of our recommended that we are going to mention, we've already mentioned already, the king of the R-rated film at the minute, Ricky Stenicki. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Drive Away Dolls. Again, you can't really, because it's about lesbians, you think, oh no. Is it going to be preachy? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they are. It's just fun.
I mean, the fact that they're lesbian doesn't really play into a lot of it. Obviously, there's themes and stuff that they discuss, and from what I can tell, so I think it's Ethan Cohen, isn't it, who is the director of The Way Dolls.
Yeah.
Ethan's wife is, I can't remember if she's trans or if she's gay, or I know she's somewhere on the LGBTQ plus flag. And they wrote that together as a way for them to sort of talk about their experiences together. So I think they're together, but they're not together. They're married, but they're not really, a couple as such. They used it as an excuse, but it did end up being like this really kind of raunchy, silly, funny, fun nonsense that came out to the other end. And I really enjoyed it. And I stand by what I said. Like, it's scuzzy because it feels very sort of entrenched in the time that it is, and it fits perfectly for what it is in those terms. So I really enjoyed that as well. It was a cracking film.
She identifies as lesbian and queer.
Okay.
Non-traditional marriage with having separate partners outside of it.
Yeah, look, I knew they had an unconventional marriage, and they've written this and I think 2 or 3 other films together, as part of an unofficial trilogy, quadrilogy, talking about their unusual quote unquote life. So I'm intrigued to see where they go next with it all. Excuse me. So the worst thing that I saw in March, it's kind of difficult because I didn't see anything outright bad. But Lisa Frankenstein was a fun little 90 minutes. I didn't expect it to be amazing. It was just fine. So I'm probably going to have to go for Roadhouse, which is a shame because I actually think that's not a terrible film. But it's also not a great film, mostly because Conor McGregor cannot act for shit. And he comes in and just tries to play Conor McGregor, and you think, well, if you're just playing yourself, you should be a lot better at doing this. And he just wasn't. But it was mindless, silly, fun enough, but I wouldn't recommend anyone spend 2 hours watching it, to be honest.
How does it compare to the original?
The original's probably better, but in a worse way, if that makes sense. Like, the original, I think, is so bad it's good. It falls on that sort of scale of films. And this is just kind of middling, which is a bit more offensive to me. Like, I'd rather it be a real big swing and a miss, like I think the original is. Whereas this just kind of exists. It's pretty forgettable, I think, ultimately, unfortunately. I wouldn't say don't watch it, but at the same time, don't get your hopes up for it to be a masterpiece. It's just a fine film. That's all I'd say for it, really. So the next question is, what thing most exceeded your expectations? It can be a film you've already mentioned before, or if you've got something new, or TV, whatever, Stu, what blew you out of the water?
Is it going to be yours? Because I've got something else, if not. RS.
No, go for it. I mean, that is a potential answer of mine if you weren't going to take it, in fairness.
I mean, there is others, but I didn't expect Married to the Game, like I mentioned, that series, which is Real Housewives of the Premier League, as I called it at the time. I didn't expect it to be what it was, but Ricky Stenicki is just fucking amazing. Let's just stop. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what category. We've lasted nearly an hour now. Well, over an hour if you include the other part. What a film that is, and it's such a throwback to stuff from 20 years ago. I can't believe it's been made, and let alone the fact that Nicolas Cage was in the frame to play him in the first place. Then you have John Cena himself, who's now a bona fide comedy genius, who saw that really coming. I saw someone say, that the whole thing of they've made a whole film about the fact that you can't see him into this film. Really, it's just insane. And you think, okay, well, you look at the people in it, didn't know anyone other than him and Zac Efron, and obviously the ageless William H. Macy, who never changes. But films like from years ago, have you ever seen Nice Guys?
Yes, the Russell Crowe, Ken, yeah, great film.
Yeah, things like that, and Dirty Grandpa, and films like that from 10 years ago, which them themselves were like, you don't see many of them. But this, a tour de force of fun and games. Absolutely wonderful piece of art. That's what it is.
And you just know that it's the kind of film that the critics will be massively sniffy over. It won't give it the time of day. I'm sure it's got a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's that kind of genre of film. My initial thought was Freddy Got Fingered, that level of stupidity. But it works. I genuinely found myself laughing out loud in parts. The scene that's doing the rounds on Twitter at the moment, so it's John Cena doing the cover versions, but they're all about wanking. That was just fucking hilarious. I said to you at the time, I should absolutely hate this film. It goes against all my sensibilities as a pretentious wanker when it comes to film. And I fucking loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It probably is like the one that exceeded my expectations most this year. It really did. I didn't have high hopes at all, but I thought I've got nothing else to do. It's not that long a film. Let's at least give it a try. And it was a winner on several levels for me. So I'm in complete agreement. The other one would have been Drive Away Dolls, which we obviously just discussed as well. That was another film that I was hoping for good, and I really, really enjoyed it in the end. I think I saw someone say that we Drive Away Dolls. So it's obviously you've got the two Coens, and if you put them together, they make the perfect film. So you've got Ethan Coen, who made Drive Away Dolls, and you've got Joel Coen, who made The Tragedy of Macbeth. And you can see in those two films, if you push them together, you come out with Raising Arizona. And I think that's the perfect analogy for them as a pair. Like, apart, they can create good stuff that's very different, and together they work perfectly. But, I mean, those are the two films for me that I had, low to middling expectations and had a whale of a time with both of them. Ash, what was your exceeded expectations?
Just you've got to go with me. It's Madam Web. It's Madam Web. Like, I was expecting shit. I was expecting awful crap, and I was expecting to come out of it hating it. But the fact that I came out beaming, and I saying that the most fun I've had in ages in one of these kind of films, it has to be Madam Web. For a film that's so badly rated and slated so much, I haven't smiled and giggled my way through a film like that in such a long time. So there's nothing else for it. And the fact that Dakota Johnson has absolutely given up the ghost on the whole thing, leading the press tour and everything like that, you just have to love it.
Have you had the urge to dance on a table to Toxic? It's true because it was always going to be awful. But thinking that it was just going to be Morbius again and we could just absolutely slate it like everyone else did. But to then talk about it over and over again.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, like, obviously you're right to compare it to Morbius because that's the nearest one. But I was absolutely no interest in talking about Morbius or watching it again or anything because it was just dour shit. With Madam Web, I want to do a 20-part documentary just breaking down every 5 minutes of this film. Fucking outstanding fun. And it shouldn't have been. I think a lot of people must have gone in expecting it to be MCU nonsense. So you're going to get the Nazis who pretty much praise all of the MCU regardless of how shit it is. They will still say it's good. Like, they couldn't do that with this. And then you get people like us who realise that it was going to be crap, so let's just run with it and see where we come out on the other side. And like, it deserved to bomb because it was shit. But I also think everyone in the world should watch it because it was so shit that it was fun.
Yeah, it ain't like when you mentioned the MCU, I didn't even mention it in my worst. I mean, Echo, it was just boring.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing that was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, no one's ever mentioned it, so I'd completely forgot about it.
I thought, the premise is a bit quirky, a bit different for a change. But then after probably the first episode was all right. I thought, okay. And then it did the usual thing, and it just tailed off, and it was just the most meh thing possible.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a bit of a running history with that on their TV shows, haven't they? I think where it just sort of doesn't really deliver. So it seems to be par for the course, I think.
Loki season 2 was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't outstanding, but it was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was perfectly enjoyable. You pair that to Moon Knight. But Echo, Moon Knight was just annoying. Echo was just boring.
That's not a good sign, is it? So what was the thing that under-delivered most for you so far? Ash?
I want to say Imaginary because I went into it hoping that it'll be one of those shitty horror films, like your Megan or something like that. That it's going to be silly bollocks, and you're never gonna like write home about it, but you'll have some fun. But I was bored. And that's the worst thing that it can be, is say, like you say with Morbius and all these ones, if you're not going to be good, at least be memorable. Don't be boring. And that's the problem. That's what this was. It's a film about a fucking haunted teddy bear. Like, what's the scope here? Like, at least make it fun. And nah, stinker.
That's kind of like with my thing with the Saw films. Like, they're kind of shit films, but I sort of understand why people like them because of the kills. Because they're usually at least inventive, but it sounds like Imaginary doesn't even have that going for it.
Yeah. Was there rumours that there's going to be a second one, did I see? I'm sure I read somewhere that there might be a second one.
I don't know. Depends on how profit. I think, good luck with Blumhouse, that's the one thing, is that if it makes money, they'll make a sequel. So we're bound to get Five Nights at Freddy 2. Because
that'll come.
Massive success regardless of how awful it was. So I wouldn't be surprised if it made, if it made a couple of quid, I'm sure they'll be pushing it through. I have seen they're making a third Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey film though.
There's a universe now.
Yeah.
The multiverse.
We'll be getting a third film and it will be getting a proper budget apparently. So fuck me.
Apparently the second one's reviewed really well, hasn't it?
Has it? I'm so excited.
I can. Let's have a look. Blood and Honey.
I did enjoy it.
What was it on? I know Owl. Is it Owl? Owl's in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. A few more of the faces. Maybe Rue, or was he? He wasn't in the first, was he?
No.
So
I think he might be in this. He's in the third one because they're going to introduce the heffalumps and all them sort of things. So we could go into absolute mad bastard sort of mad lad lands.
Because is this one of these things as well where they have to wait a couple of years for the copyright to expire to get more things in there?
Potentially. I know, like, it might be the case that because they're related to Pooh, that they all come, as one package. So when one's out, they're all. I don't know. It's an interesting question, though. I'm not 100% sure of that one. So the thing under delivered me, the one that I think I was quite disappointed with was The Colour Purple. I like musicals. I like serious films about serious subjects. And this is obviously about rape, or, the victim of a rape in a musical. And it didn't sit right with me at all throughout the entirety of the film. It was really weird. It's not that it was like badly acted or anything. I think I was expecting it to be excellent because the original film is obviously very well regarded. And as far as I'm aware, the musical's like a bit of a smash hit on Broadway and whatnot. And I thought, okay, this should this should be something. And it just wasn't anything in the end for me. Don't know how we got the Oscar nominations that it did. The acting was fine. I don't think it was exceptional. And I really had higher hopes than what was delivered. And it ended up being a film that I hope I never watch again because it was just a big dumb. Which is, as I, just saying about Imaginary, being dull is a massive crime. At least be memorable if you're not going to be good. And it just wasn't for me. So that's the one that under-delivered. So finally, what film, TV, whatever, good or bad, have we not mentioned that you just want to bring to our attention? Stu?
I'll say my under-delivered first.
Oh shit! Sorry.
To be fair, it kind of works because it's going to be instantly forgettable, but maybe not for a bad way. Where if you watch something for 14 years and you think, okay, the final chapter's here. What are they going to do with a legendary TV character? And what do they do? They turn him into a fucking pussy, don't they? The Walking Dead, the ones who live. What the fuck is going on? At time of recording, it hasn't finished yet, or I haven't seen the last one. But what have they done to him? What? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. That you can't turn it into a love story and do what they did to it. No, just no.
I haven't hated it. I didn't enjoy the first episode, but then I did think it picked up quite a bit. But I've only watched, I think I've watched 2, 3, and 4. So I think I've got 2 episodes to go. It's a 6-episode season, is that right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's. You are right. It's not very Rick, is it? Because he would do everything he can to get away with the one he loves, and what he's doing is just kind of trying to push her away whilst staying put. It doesn't feel very right for the character. I agree with you there. I haven't hated it, but yeah, I see where you're coming from with that one. But I haven't seen any of the other Walking Dead things either yet. So
Of the spin-offs, I mean, I enjoyed Dead City. I thought that was with Maggie and Negan. I thought that was all right. Obviously, I watched a lot of Fear up until the end. The one, what was the one that was just more of an anthology thing? I watched half of that and given up.
Oh, I quite enjoyed that one. Well, when it was good, it was really good. When it was bad, it was meh.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of others to watch yet, and just for completionist value, I will get rented and just do it all. But it was as a Walking Dead thing, it's fine. I mean, the effects are great and the budget is good and everything, and it always has been. That's never been the problem with it. But it's what they've turned the main character, the leader, the chief, and they've made him put his own hand off within the first 5 minutes of the first episode. Not a spoiler. You think, what? Why? You've broken him down for 5 years and then you've done this to him. Well, we've seen moments where Rick's been pathetic before and he's all broken. But to have a whole show on that, nah. Not for me, Clive.
Yeah. I feel like a film could have probably done the same job.
Yeah.
Knock it out in 2 hours rather than 6 episodes. Yeah. I'd agree with you there. So anything that we haven't mentioned, Stu, that you think needs to be brought to our attention?
Yeah, I watched the first. There's a good few of them. I've watched the first 2 episodes of Shogun.
You've stole mine.
So okay, you go. You have that then, because I've only watched 2. So there's a couple of others. There's Trigger Point again. ITV getting a lot of love here. If you liked Line of Duty, go and watch Trigger Point. 6 episodes, seasons, only 2 been out so far. Starring Vicky McClure from the same show. But as bomb disposal people in London, and it's not as terrible as it sounds. A lot of care has gone into it. It's not ropey or in any way. I wouldn't say it's on a par with Mr. Bates vs. Post Office or anything like that, but as a good TV drama, nice 6-episode run, 2 seasons, very, very good. The other one, it's 3 Body Problem on Netflix.
Okay. I was going to ask about this because I haven't seen it yet and I'm kind of intrigued by it.
As weirdness as it goes, again, I've not seen it all, but as weirdness goes, this is one that you can't say. Half of it's in Chinese, so half the show's in subtitles, and you think, who is watching this? And then you look at it, and it's like in the top 10 UK. And I think, okay, fair. People do love this stuff. Very, very bizarre.
Hasn't it got half the Game of Thrones cast, and isn't it aren't the writers the Game of Thrones writers as well?
Yeah. But it's got the Netflix money behind it, and they are pushing it quite a lot. But it's so high concept that you think, is it worth it? We'll report back at a later date on that one. But so far, very weird. But maybe worth a go.
Excellent. Okay. Ash, what have you got to bring to our attention?
As Stu mentioned, what do you think? 2 episodes in, what do you think of Shogun?
I think it could be in the 10 out of 10 TV category of all time.
It is fucking superb. It is close to perfect.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
The only reason I didn't have it on my thing for March is because I haven't seen it all.
Yeah, I was close to, but it started in February. I started the first episode in February, so I was kind of like, but I couldn't put it over Iron Claw, but I did it and ah, but I was kind of I kind of thought that no, because whenever I spoke to Andy, he's never mentioned Shogun, so I didn't. I was left it for this part, but it's just brilliant. I haven't been so gripped to a TV show in a while. It's fantastic.
It's very, very, very intense, though. You can't piss about. You have to concentrate.
It'll be like Westworld levels of you need to concentrate.
No, we're way above that.
Oh, okay.
Well, sub. What are you doing? How are you watching it?
Subtitles.
Oh, well, yeah,
Obviously.
yeah.
The proper way.
No, well, it's not. Is it because the cast recorded their own dub? Yeah, apparently.
Oh, that's quite cool. No, you have to do it properly.
Yeah. So that
What's the premise of the show? What's the actual storyline?
So the bit that's more interesting for me is Blackthorn. Like, he's this English sailor who's on a Dutch ship, and it turns up in Japan in the 1700s, 1600s, or something like that, and he calls it the Japans because it's uncharted territories, and basically he wants to go after the Portuguese, and then you've got the in-squabbling of the Japanese leaders, and it's all just coming together, and obviously nobody speaks English apart from Is it Akiko? Is that her name? She's fantastic. I love her.
Kiro?
Mariko. So he has one translator. He's a prisoner. You've lost his shit. He's lost his men. We still haven't seen his men. I'm 6 episodes in. Did you see what was that the first episode where the one of his men got put into the vat of water? Oh, chef's kiss. And it's just intense. Like you're just gripped for the entire hour.
Yeah, intense is all you can say about it. It's again, you can't. It's one of these you can't sell it to normal people.
No,
because it ain't like watching certain Korean Netflix shows that are stupid, and you're reading for that long. I'm trying to think what you can even compare it to, because there's not much. I mean, maybe Breaking Bad at its best for tension and at points, but even that, it's a bit strange to say. It's just watch it. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, I saw the reviews of it when the first episode came out. I was going to watch it, but there was a few other shows that I'm like it might be the start of the second season, so I'm like, well, I need to watch that first. So it's more of a case of it's on the list. It's just finding time to fit to. But no other things have started to drop off. I will have the time to do it. So yeah, it is definitely one I'm well aware of.
It's at 9.1 on IMDb at the moment.
But look how many people have actually done it, though.
Yeah. 48,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I have been looking for something to scratch that Westworld itch. Obviously, since that's gone, I want something that's kind of deep and interesting. And, yeah.
There you go.
This looks like it could be the one to fill that void. But I have seen that it's going to be a one-hit wonder, a one-season wonder, sorry.
Yeah.
They don't have plans for more, which I think that more TV shows should be like that. They should be made with the idea of if you want perfect season, rather than drag it out to 10 and the wife ends up dying of cancer and he gets back with the first girl that he was with in the first episode. But yeah, like that should be more of a thing in TV, I believe, if I'm honest.
What have you made of X-Men 97?
I was going to ask that question as well, funny enough. I've only seen the first 2 episodes so far. I thought the first shit, I thought the second was really good. I've heard the third isn't very good. Yeah, but that's where I'm sat is it's not as good as the original series, but the second episode was a good episode. But, it's come back to me when I've seen the third one and we'll see. Have you seen it yet, Stu?
No, not yet. I mean, that's very far down the list of things. Just because he came back and people were moaning, and I thought, well, are they moaning because it's not their childhood? But again, it's been a long time since I watched that stuff. Oh, obviously, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's one of them. I know it's sacrilege for me to say, but I probably will just watch it on my tablet, stuff like that.
Yeah, like part of the charm's lost for me that it's HD. Like I understand it's HD because it's a new show that's out now, but the original show wasn't, so it feels like it's lost a little bit of its charm. I think I'd have preferred it to have been done in, the old school standard definition. But maybe that's just me being me. I don't know. Where are you sitting with it, Ash?
I've enjoyed it, to be honest. I say, like, you compare it to other Marvel TV shows, and you don't have to think, have I watched 16 hours worth of content to thingy? Whereas it's just half an hour of cartoon silly bollocks, and you can just enjoy it. And I don't read into the whole, they made Gambit a bit tie, and it's like, it always was anyway.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And who was the other one? Because they made someone's arse a bit smaller, didn't they? And that was a big old kick-off on Twitter. Yeah. That was it. That was the one.
Yeah. And obviously
the
controversy about Morph being transgender.
Oh, yeah.
Morph is, by its very nature, both male and female. Like, Morph can morph into anybody. So, like, I don't quite get where your argument is with it. I think it's more that the people who watched it back then, they're just older and maybe more aware of these things that were still there then. They just, I don't know, strange. Speaking of animated superhero-y stuff, Invincible, second part of season 2 is now out. Stu, I know you're a big fan of the first season, same as me. How have you been finding this part of it so far?
I haven't watched it yet. I was waiting for it to be finished.
Yeah, I feel like they've really fucked up by splitting season 2 into 2 halves. It's lost all of its momentum.
Exactly.
First episode, though, shit goes down.
Oh, I watched it, but I've got to be honest, I watched it while scrolling through Twitter, which I think is a fucking terrible thing. It's the first half of the second season I really enjoyed, and it was a weekly must-see appointment TV. And I even enjoyed the special they did at Christmas. But I feel like it's lost its momentum completely. They really fucked up by splitting it into 2 halves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stinks for me, that one does. The other thing I was going to mention to you, specifically you, Ash, because I don't think, Stu, you've watched Dark Side of the Ring. I don't think you've watched any of the original. No. So obviously the 4th episode has been released this week. I haven't watched it about Brutus the Barber Beefcake, but how went the other episodes in this season? It's something me and Matt have championed a few times on here.
I think it's been okay. I think I did raise an eyebrow when I saw the list of Earthquake. It was the first one was Earthquake. Second one was
Buff Bagwell.
Oh, Buff Bagwell. That was superb. That episode. That episode was fantastic.
It was,
I think, for wrong reasons.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
No,
he was
Terry Gordy was that. That was quite sad. They do find, like, I wasn't expecting a lot with those episodes, but the John Tenter Earthquake episode, that did bring a tear to the eye, because that last 20 minutes was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and the same with Terry Gordy's episode. Actually, the end was very sad. They're fantastic. They are, and the fact that Michael P.S. Hayes went online afterwards and said he agreed with most of the episode. He said it was they did him well. So that tells you they've done well with this episode so far.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to catching up on this week's episode. Like, Beefcake is a very strange character and feels like he would probably fit in quite well in the Dark Side universe of episodes. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes. So the only thing that I wanted to bring to people's attention is season 12 of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think it's been brilliant. Like, I loved season 11. It was really good. But 12 has been exceptional. Like, I've properly had some belly laughs at this season. JB Smooth, no? Yeah, BJ Smooth, isn't it? The Leon is one of my favourite characters in any show ever. He's always just absolutely wonderful. And this season, I think it has probably been his funniest. So I think if for no other reason, you should watch it for him. But Larry David has knocked it out of the park. The last episode, or the episode, sorry, before Richard died as well, was kind of moving when they were arguing about the stuff that he's left in his will for Larry David. And he was like, I don't want it. I hope you die. And then a week later in the real world, he died. And it was really upsetting. But at the same time, you think these are two best mates who knew that something was going to happen because obviously he had cancer and it was very well known. And it was really moving, but really fun and sweet. And you could just see this playful, fucking childish look on their faces, giggling at each other, that they knew they were saying something wrong. And I loved it. And I think this season's been brilliant so far. And I really hope they keep it up for the last, is it 12 episode season or 10 episodes? So I think, we've either got 3 or 4 left to go this season, basically. And it's been wonderful. And it's such a great show anyway that I think everyone should watch it from the very beginning. But this season so far, I think, has been absolutely spectacular. I've really enjoyed every minute of it. I'll be sad when it's gone. I know they have like long, big breaks in between seasons, but it's always nice to know that it's out there somewhere and it will come back. But obviously this one won't. But yeah, I've loved Curb. Have you been watching this one, Stu? Because I know you're a Curb fan as well.
Yeah, no, not yet. I was, because I was about to watch 11, and then the incident happened. And there was so much that I was watching it. I thought, I don't know what they're talking about. And there was things they were referencing. And I thought, I'm going to have to go back and watch it all again. And I know that it'll be one of these things where I'll watch it and, I wasn't a huge fan, was I? I watched it in lockdown to catch up because you lot on the Fancast had talked about it for years, and rightly so. So I was massively behind the times with that one. But yeah, I started watching it in 2020 and I kind of binged it too much. And I was like, oh, it's over now. And then 11 came and it was all a bit of a joke. So I'm going back and enjoying watching it again from the start. And obviously it's only been 4 years, but brain injuries happen. And unfortunately, this was one of them that just got deleted for some reason. But you're watching it back and then you go, oh yeah, I remember that and things like that. Like I talked about that episode of Black Mirror that I'd completely forgot about, the one where they're in the matching one. Well, where the one where they
hang the DJ.
Yeah, hang the DJ. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, that was on my Netflix unwatched, and I know that I've watched them all, but it was there. It didn't have the red line on it, and it was there. I thought, okay, is this one of these things where I've started watching it, and I fell asleep and watched it, but then no, I was sitting there thinking, I have no memory of this episode whatsoever, and it wasn't until the end when it zooms out, and I thought, oh yeah, I remember watching this now. So that's been what's been happening with Curb, where I've got to 5, and I think, yeah, it gets to the end of the episode. I went, oh yeah, I remember it now. Like as the episode's going along, it's really, really strange. But yeah, in a weird way, it's nice because I get to watch it again for a reason, not just to watch it to catch up. But yeah, I love it. It's one of them that it shouldn't work for us here.
Yeah.
But it does.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I completely get it. Lovely. Right, so we had a message in from one of our listeners. Mike Evans has got in contact and he wants to know. Let me find the message, actually, and I'll read it out because I do have a question for you, Shu. So he says, hey guys, I have a question for the next pod episode. Have any of you seen the latest Turning Point Cold War documentary? Mike says that he really enjoyed it and he loves a history documentary. He also wants to know what our favourite documentaries are. So, Turning Point Cold War documentary, Stu, you mentioned this in the group chat earlier. Talk to me about this and then tell us what your favourite documentary is.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet. It's on the docket for next week. But he came up, and like you, I have no real knowledge of the Cold War other than in X-Men First Class. It's one of them things that just don't get talked about, or if they do get talked about, there's a lot of propaganda behind what we are told here. But this doesn't seem like that. This seems from the trailer anyway that it's telling it from both sides, which is always a good thing. Like again, They Shall Not Grow Old, which is the Peter Jackson film documentary using real footage, and I liked it. I like how and the Netflix one as well, which I talked about a few weeks ago, World War II Frontline or something like that. It's not there anyway. From the end of last year, how they showed real footage of both sides. So you saw the German soldiers and you saw what they were going through as well. Obviously, they were there with their number 44s on and everything. But yeah, that's two there. Non-war stuff. Another we found it after we watched the film last year, Citizen 4, on the Snowden documentary. I thought that was excellent. So, do I mention it again? Yeah, why not? But my best one ever that's had an impact on me anyway was Senna. Senna was, for me personally, remembering watching that happen, and I was a bit too young as well. At the time I was only, 94, so I was only 10 when that happened. So I wasn't invested in his career and everything. And going back, and obviously, what a legend he was. But watching F1 for 20 odd years at the time that film came out, it was proper. It was teary-eyed, and it was like couldn't speak for a while. And I remember me and Dean just went to the pub and just had a pint and just sat there. It was so impactful. But yeah, so if for some reason you've never seen it, and it's another one like we were talking about, it doesn't really matter on the subject. It's just a really, really, really excellent, well-made film. So just go and watch Senna.
It's interesting because with Senna, obviously, it's Asif Kapadia, who I think has got some of the best documentaries all round. Obviously, you've got the you've got the Maradona documentary that he made, the Amy Winehouse documentary that he made. I haven't seen the Ronaldo one. He was the exec producer on the Supersonic Oasis one. The guy has got a real talent for making some really good documentaries. I think he might be the premier documentary maker in the world currently. No one seems to be able to do quite what he does with the regularity that he does. He's absolutely outstanding. Citizen 4 was on my list as well because I thought that was... I really, really enjoyed that, to the point that it spoils the actual film that we were reviewing that week. The Snowden movie. Outstanding. It's well worth a watch, that one is. I'm currently watching the documentary about Natalia Grace. So I'm partway through the first season on it. It's called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. If you've seen The Orphan film is about a young girl who is adopted by an American family, and she, Bulgarian, possibly Hungarian, I can't quite remember. And then it turns out that she's not actually an 8-year-old child, she's a 20-something-year-old sociopathic serial killer. The Curious Case of Natalia Grace is a very similar story in that this family adopt a child from Eastern Europe. They bring her over and then they start telling stories about her to the point that she ends up being reclassified as a 24-year-old. This actually happened after the film. So I was under the impression that the film was inspired by these events, but actually these events were inspired by the film. It's a fucking wild story, and I'm only halfway through season 1. Season 2's just dropped. I can't wait to find out anything else that happens in this. That's worth a watch. And the other documentary that I wanted to make mention of is Dear Zachary, a letter to a son from his father. Is one of the most heartbreaking films I've ever seen. A family friend was making a documentary to Zachary, who was this guy's son, because his father was murdered by his abusive, I think his girlfriend. I don't think they were married. So he was making a story about his father to just present to him, let's say, family, heirloom, to say, this was your dad. And something happens halfway through the making of the documentary that is so monumentally fucking horrendous that the entire story changes. Don't want to spoil anything. It is worth a watch. I bawled my fucking eyes out to the point I had to stop the film to just catch my breath and then watch the end of it. It's just outstanding. I couldn't recommend it any more highly.
So what's it called?
Dear Zachary. Let me just get the full title to make sure I've got the right one.
A letter to a son about his father.
Yeah, that's the one. 2008. Like, just unbelievable. And they say like truth is weirder than fiction or whatever. Real life's weirder than fiction. Yeah, it is. And devastatingly so. Worth a watch, 100%. So that's my few shout hosts. Ash, any documentaries on your list?
I've got two. One was Maradona, which has already been mentioned because I love that, going to cinema to see that one. Again, like you said, I can't really say it better, but what was his name? Asif Kapadia's just fantastic. He's just fantastic at how he does it, and then seeing Maradona, the way that he portrayed him in that, it was beautiful. And then if we can get this on TV, it was a documentary called, was it a dramatization called I Love You Now Die? The Commonwealth versus Michelle Carter. About a girl. It's about a girl who convinced her boyfriend to kill himself. It's harrowing, awful.
What was it called?
I Love You Now Die.
Okay.
And basically the premise of the story was this girl, she met this boy online or whatnot, and he had a lot of mental health issues, and she basically convinced him to kill himself. Like basically telling him, you should do it now. Why have you not done it yet? Oh, it's awful, but it was superb. It's superb watching.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Mommy Dead and Dearest, I'll trade you that. Watch Mommy Dead and Dearest. That's about the girl who's sort of come to prominence because she's recently been released from prison. Gypsy Rose Blanchard. If you don't know about that story, that's worth a watch. I really enjoyed the show with Joey King and Patricia Arquette in as well. The Act, that was called. But yeah, the documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest sounds similar premise. But yeah, go for that one. So yeah, that was a great question. Thanks a lot, Mike. Also, speaking of Mike, when he's a fairly recent listener, I remember when he joined us, he'd said that he had an idea about we could do some episodes on villains and heroes. So next week we'll be answering one single question, which is what makes a good bad guy. So get your thinking caps on, Stu, and we'll be discussing that one next week. So please make sure you subscribe on whatever podcatcher it is that you're listening to us on now. And if you can leave us a review, we'll love you forever. And for this week, I suppose, I don't know if we should actually, are we announcing it or what here? I don't quite understand.
I've asked him and he said it's okay.
It's okay, right. Okay. So, because we're recording on Easter Sunday, he is risen, I suppose, and is here with us in the big bright world. So, roaring, awesome guy. But what should we need to change from MG3? Should we call him Rog, or is it? Where are we going with this thing? What's the nickname going to be for the kiddo?
I think we just call him Rory. It's almost like, because I never had a nickname ever. I was just called Stu. That was because it was easy for everyone.
Yeah, your name is Stuart, so that is a nickname.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's like Rory. the reason why Matt has been gone, and he will be back. After long toils and all the heartache over the years of giving Sam trying for a baby, they finally now have one in young, few days old Rory, who looks absolutely fabulous. Sam doesn't look tired, which is incredible, really.
Yeah.
So when Matt does return and he's aged 10 years, that video might have to be put out just as a comparison to what it looked like before and after, being part of Dad Club. So yes, most congratulations. He couldn't speak, it's emotion. Congratulations all round. It's wonderful news. Just see these little beaming little face, and obviously it's on Facebook, and I don't know if we put that picture or go anywhere else, but if you can imagine his smiling face, that's exactly what that photos have come through in the last few days. Yeah, excellent news. Welcome, Rory. Cage Fighting Juniors in 15 years' time.
Yeah, big love to Matt and Sam, and yeah, we're fucking chuffed for you, mate. You know that. But yeah, I think you put it on Instagram, so if you follow me, I'm sure you'll see it anyway. But yeah, welcome to the world, Rory. We'll make a Nick Cage fan of you yet. Let's just start straight with the crude, so it's nice and easy, and then work our way up to Vampire's Kiss. Right, for this week, Ash, thanks for joining us, mate. Much appreciated. Would you like to say goodbye to the people?
Goodbye, all.
Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
I would, but it was Ricky Stanicki's fault. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.